Hello friends, welcome to Thursday's video. My name is Michelle and this is 3 on Thursday, where we make 3 cards every week and I give you all the measurements and information on how to make them yourselves at home. So I love being able to show you guys how easy it is to make cards and other projects that might look like they're really hard to do and like you may not be able to do them when really you can. So today's cards don't look like they're hard, unlike some of my other classes. Today's cards are SIP cards, S-I-P, stamps, ink, and paper. That is a big thing with Stampin' Up, and I hadn't done any in quite some time. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. We have 3 cards that are all SIP cards. That means there is no printed paper. There's no DSP on any of these cards. There are no die cuts. The only tools used are stamps, ink, cardstock. I do use scissors. I do use my paper trimmer, right? Those are kind of some givens. And on one of the cards, we are actually going to use some blending brushes. Now, these are Close to My Heart brushes, but Stampin' Up! Does carry the same type of brushes. I just don't have them yet. So, that being said, let's go ahead and get started on our cards. So since this is here, let's go ahead and start with this card. And we are going to use 2 different stamp sets. We are going to use Everyday Greetings for the hello. And we are going to use Spotlight on Nature for this leaf shape and probably this little splatter. I say probably because I'm going to show you my samples, and in one of them I didn't actually use that. So when you are watching, if you could just say hello, let me know that you're here. Let me know if you're watching on the live or are you watching on the replay. I always love to know when you guys are watching. So let's move this out of the way. Now, this little white thing is one of the inclusions that you get with the Stampin' Up! Glass mat, and it's going to become available again here very soon to everyone. And if you are a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, you do have the opportunity to purchase that before customers. So if that is something that you're interested in doing or getting, let me know and I would love to help you with that. So it is a rubberized, maybe even silicone, I'm not sure, little thing. It is flat on the back, so it is kind of grippy. It is a little bit more grippy on the glass mat, which I haven't played with yet. It does also come with a chamois of sorts. It does come slightly wet, and I have had it sitting off to the side, so it has dried. So it does dry out and harden like the Close to My Heart chamois, like any other chamois out there on the market. So that does come with it, and then the glass mat itself. So let's go ahead and get started. We're not going to use all of these inks, but I did use them on the samples. So let me move that. And I'm going to show you the samples in the order that I made them. So we have this one first. We have, of course, the matching envelope. We have the matching inside, because you guys know I always have a liner on the inside of my card. So this particular card uses Blackberry Bliss and Daffodil Delight and the Memento Black ink, of course, for the black, and kind of blended those colors together. It looked very fall-like to me, and so I wanted to have something not quite fall. Right, we're not there in the United States. We're not in that season. So, set that aside. Case, will you check and make sure you can hear me, please? All right, and then card number 2. Same concept, but thank you. But I had decided that I didn't want the super straight lines that I had on the first card. So I tore my mask, so it looks kind of, not quite watercolor, but kind of close. Everything else is kind of the same except one of the colors, and this is Cherry Cobbler and Daffodil Delight. Right? So less fall-like, more hot summer-like. So that was kind of cool. And again, the inside and the envelope all done and matchy-matchy. Guess I'll set those kind of here. And then my third card, I wanted to go with something different, and I went with some blues, and I really like how this turned out. So you'll notice on this one I don't have the splatchies on it, and I kind of like it, kind of don't. I almost want to use the black to put them on there, but then I also kind of don't. So I'm going to leave it for now. And so these 2 colors are Pool Party and Misty Moonlight. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. I think I'm going to go ahead and stick with the blues so that we have kind of a 2 and 2. Maybe I'll make it a little bit darker on the far end. Maybe I'll pull in some Night of Navy to get a slightly darker, because these ones are kind of dark on either end. Actually, you know what? Let's do something slightly different still, because we have kind of similar colors right on that first one, or first 2. There we go. So let me move these 2 out of the way. And let's do Pool Party and Shy Shamrock. And that will change it kind of to a blue-green. So then we have some spring, summer, fall, winter kind of colors, I think. I mean, we'll see how it ends up, right? So what do we need for this card? It's really simple. You need a card base and envelope. So I have what would normally be considered a top folding card, but I am rotating it so it's a side fold card like this, right? Of course, our envelope. And then we have 2 pieces of white that are 4 by 5 1/4. And that's it. That's all you need. Well, I guess that technically that's not all you need, because I mean, obviously you need your stamps and your paper and your ink. We are going to use some Post-it notes as well. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're not doing anything on the card base itself. So I'm going to set that off to the side. We are going to stamp the envelope. So I'm going to take one of my inserts and I'm going to put that inside so that we can remove that bump from where the papers, the edges of the envelope fold over, right? So let me sorry, I needed to get a scratch sheet of paper. So bring in our memento. And we don't need to do this first, but we are, because we are. And then we're just going to stamp it on the bottom left corner. And it's going to be ever so slightly off the left edge and definitely off the bottom. And then we can go ahead and pull out that insert that we put in there. because we need to stamp this one as well. And we're just going to stamp in the bottom right corner of our insert. And then we're going to set our leaf aside because we definitely want to do our ink blending before we stamp our black ink. Alright, so let's go ahead and bring in our paper. And we are going to tear our Post-its. Now, if you don't have a long Post-it, you could use a piece of paper. I just thought Post-its would be super easy to do. Right, of course they are. And second piece. And I am tearing the sticky edge. But again, if you're just using paper, that works too. If you're just using paper, I would recommend using some washi tape to hold it down, just so it doesn't move on you and you don't get any weird shadowing effects. Oh my goodness. Of course it would not tear the last little bit. So I'm just eyeballing how much space there is, and this ends up being, what is it? Just over 1.5, about 1 3/4 ish. Alright, this is the last Post-it on this pad. Now, if you don't want to tear your paper, if you wanted it straight, go for it. Goodness, this piece doesn't want to let go. Alright, let's try this again. I totally forgot what I was saying, so I apologize. Alright. So if you want it straight, you can make it straight. If you don't want it straight, don't make it straight. Like, it's pretty much that simple. So I'm going to flip this around. So these fit in here perfectly, just like that. And so they don't move. Okay. So we're just going to load up our lightest color first. Right, this way it doesn't get contaminated by the darker color. And we're just going to blend, blend, blend. Why is this so out of focus? It just does not like having, I mean, it's not even that much white. There's not much white. Alright, so we're going to call that good for the pool party. And now we are going to do, I haven't even opened this one yet. So when you get your ink spots, so this is from the June Paper Pumpkin. And we're actually going to use that stamp on one of our cards today too. They're sealed so they don't come apart. So you need to just carefully slice that open. If you are a danger to yourself if you're using straight knives, or straight edge blades like that, ask for some assistance, please. From someone anyway. Alright, let me let's see. I'm going to go ahead and use this one. Yes, it has some color on it, but it is a similar color to the one we're going to use. So I'm okay. These are going to be kind of similar in color. This one out of the way. So I might need to go kind of a little bit heavy-handed because I went kind of heavy-handed on the pool party. Stop. Otis? Quick. There we go. Okay. So now is the moment of truth. I think that is very springy in color. I like it. Bring in this, and we need to stamp our hello and our leaf. So we're definitely going to do the leaf first. So I could have maybe gone a little bit further over, but that's okay. I was just eyeballing it, and sometimes that happens. So this card is actually inspired by one of the presenters at OnStage, which is the yearly convention that Stampin' Up! Does for all their demonstrators. And yeah, that's what this takes after. And now we're ready to put it together. It's that simple. Okay. So we are going to take off our cover. So I don't need to put quite as much on the inside piece, right, because it has the protection of being inside our card. And I am going to line this up on this end because it is the opposite of the fold, which I know sounds kind of silly, but these three spaces matter more on whether or not they're equal than this does because it continues on to the other side. Right, so we got to make sure that we make it look good. Now the front is not quite the same. You need to be more precise on centering. Alright, and that is card number 1. So let me bring in the others so I can show you. So now we essentially have all 4 seasons in one little set. Right? Super fun. I like it. I think it goes well kind of as the set. I think if I was doing a bunch of these just one color style, I would probably do either a slightly darker green or a slightly lighter blue. But I think as a set, it looks great. Okay. Isn't that great? We have one card done already. Super fast, super easy. And it's just a stamp, ink, and paper. All right, card number 2. We have some more pieces on this one, not quite just the small number. And I did not stamp the envelope, I forgot to, so I need to do that. But here is this. And our inside. So for card number 1, I cut down some pieces and I had these. I was like, oh, those kind of look like camo. So I was like, let's see if we can actually do it on purpose. And so that's kind of what I was going for with this strip back here, and of course the inside as well. So that's what this card is. And I did change up the stamps a little bit, and I don't know how much that plays into, I mean, it still kind of looks like camo, but not to the same degree, and I don't know if that's just because of the size of the paper piece or kind of, you know, how that comes into play. So we have, of course, our card base and our envelope. I am using, on all the card bases today, I am using the thick basic white. All right, so we have a white and a, is this Mossy Meadow? Hold on. No, Garden Green. Okay, so white and basic white and garden green, both of them are 4 by 5 1/4. I have pieces that are 1 1/8 inch wide. They were 12 inches. I've taken these pieces off, so these are just kind of the remainders. So we'll use those and we'll have scraps. And then I do have these pieces done, but I am going to show you how we're going to do it. And we end up cutting 1 into 1 inch and 1 into 1/2 inch. And then I have a 1 inch piece of white for our sentiment. So we do actually need one more piece of white. I'm doing it at 4 by 5 1/4 because, like you've probably heard me say in the past, I have a bunch of these pre-cut ready to go. It makes things really easy when it comes to making cards. So I am going to bring this in, and we are going to use stamps that you probably would not expect. Gotta find all of them. So we are actually using Painted Lavender for our camo pieces, and then we are going to use the June Paper Pumpkin stamp set for the thanks. If you don't have that, you could use one of the larger things from My Small Business, or you know, there's lots of things out there that you could use. Okay, so and then for ink colors, we are going to use copper clay, just a little bit of it. We are going to use Mossy Meadow. Yeah, we're just using those two. Okay, so first up is our Mossy Meadow. And we are just going to bring in our stamping mat, Stampin' Pierce mat. So we are going to stamp in all sorts of directions. We are going to overlap, and we are going to stamp at the second generation. I'm going to try to not get the little leftover bits like I have there, but it might happen anyway. So basically, pretty much everywhere you want to have two stampings, right? You want one full strength, and then you want another second generation. And you don't want them to go in the same direction. Otis, please stop. You want them to rotate and kind of be all over the place. Okay. So I want to put some second generation in a few spots that didn't get any. Or at least that don't look like they got any. Okay. So that is step one. We're going to close this up for the moment because we need to bring in our paper trimmer. So to make this easy, I'm just going to cut 4 pieces that are 1 inch. Right, because like I said, this is a 4 by 5 1/4. And then we will cut one of these pieces down a little bit further. So this see, I already don't even know if that's the right way. So I know that these two are this. Okay, so this one, yep. So this is the way it goes, but we don't want to keep it this way. We want to kind of swap and twist and turn and whatnot. And then we're going to flip these over, and we're going to bring in some washi tape just to make things easier. You don't have to do the washi tape part, but it does make it a little bit easier for the next couple steps. So I'm going to tape together the 2 pieces and then make them one. And then for the next step, we can just separate the two pieces and just flop them over. Alright, so this is this. It looks kind of not great, but that's okay. So next we are going to bring in our copper clay. You could use a darker brown color. That would be really good as well. And we're just going to random stamp in all directions, first and second generation. And you can see why having a darker brown might be slightly more ideal, but I don't have that. How much you put on here is really kind of up to you. I'm doing more this time than I did last time because it felt like it was missing some color variants. Okay, we're going to call that good. Okay, we're going to close this because we're not looking for bad things to happen. Alright, so we're going to wave this around for a few seconds. And let it dry a little bit. Actually, while that's drying a little bit, let's bring in our garden green piece. I did forget one. We are also using Adventurous Sky for our metal piece here. Alright, so I want to make sure I figured out there is a way to stamp it that it kind of aligns. And I can't remember. Nope. Much better. Okay. So if you put this point right here, right, this one, away from you when you're stamping, it kind of lines up. It doesn't really line up. But that's okay. We only need it to kind of line up. And we are going to second generation stamp. On our cardstock. Okay. And I'm going to come back in and I'm going to do kind of a second, I'm going to do a second row. And yes, some of this is going to overlap, but that is kind of how it is. So I'm essentially stamping this upside down. Ooh, I almost stamped that directly on there. Okay. And then let's actually stamp our envelope. Let's stamp both of them. And we're just going to do the bottom corner of the front. And we can do full strength. Just kind of off the edge, just like that. Super simple. Okay, so our green cardstock is done. Let's stamp our sentiment. Where did the sentiment go? Here it is. So, thanks. Why is that not? Okay, let's try that again. Try not to press too hard, and you can see I did kind of press too hard. So let's see if we can get this to stamp nicely and not transfer the extra ink. Not too shabby. I'll take it. Try to not put your fingers in the ink. It's harder than you might expect some days. Alright, so let's come back to our piece. And remember, we need to swap our pieces. Now, you could swap all of the pieces. Right, and you actually don't even have to have them line up. It would be absolutely hilarious if I managed to do this and essentially line them up as if the paper were whole. Okay, so there's our piece. Right, so we're going to use the same Mossy Meadow ink, but we are going to bring in the thicker, I don't know that it's lavender because this one is lavender, but I don't, hollyhock, I don't know. And then we're going to go over it. And I'm going to see if I can do a little bit less this time and see if I like it more. I think I possibly went over it too many times last time. I just did that in the wrong direction. So I think that's possibly why it didn't quite look like camo anymore to me. Okay, let's not forget these pieces at the end. Or at the other end. And we're going to stop. We're going to call that good. It kind of looks like a hot mess altogether. But when we take it apart, looks a little bit more like camo, I think. But not quite to the same degree as this one. And I do think it's probably because it's a smaller strip, but that's okay. Alright, I'm going to leave those taped together because we're definitely not going to use those. And bring our paper trimmer back in. And cut this one to 1/2 inch. So clearly you can get more than one card. So you can get 2.5 cards per one piece, that 4 by 5 1/4. If you did 4.5 by 5 1/4, you could get 3 cards out of that one piece. Alright, so we'll just put these pieces over there. So let's go ahead and do our scissoring. Oh, these are slightly different sizes. That's okay. Alright, so we are just going to cut a banner end into all 4 of these pieces. This is one of the kind of side effects of using, how one works. So let's trim this one down a smidge. The side effects of using scrap paper, 1 inch. That banner shape. Doesn't actually look like we'll need to do that. Okay. So let's go ahead and we're just going to tack these down on our Cajun Craze. I don't know if I said that actually earlier, but this cardstock is Cajun Craze. Alright, so we are just tacking them down in case we need to make any adjustments. Alright, if we glued it down completely, if we mess up our cuts, it makes things a little bit more difficult. My refrigerator is making weird noises. And I don't know, maybe it's just a me thing, but I almost always feel like I'm cutting things crooked. Alright, so this one I did cut a little bit close, so I want to be able to move it back, which obviously I can do because I only just tacked it down. So, let's see. I do want to kind of take a look at the spacing because I don't want to waste a ton of cardstock, obviously. So I'm going to grab my pencil And I'm going to mark these. I'm going to mark them a little bit too long. Right, because I can trim it. After the fact. And now we can glue down all of our pieces. Right, and from this step forward, mostly, it's pretty simple. Alright, so we are going to lay this out, nope, the other way. Which means I stamped my second row in the wrong spot. Oh, okay. Let's come back and do our second row again, so it doesn't look funny. I want to make sure I have this turned in the right direction, so I'm lining it up as correctly as possible. Okay. We just needed that little bit more, so we didn't have anything hanging out here. All right, so as I started to say, we are going to line these up essentially like this, and we actually are going to bring in the frayed grosgrain ribbon. Well, welcome. Thanks for joining. So we're gonna have this come, it'll be just under our things. It's not gonna be on top, but we just need to trim. I have a viewer, I'm not quite sure how to shorten your username, so I'm just not going to. Right? Always best to do that. Alright, so this ribbon is essentially going to be at the 1/3 mark from the bottom. And we're going to make sure we're not putting it on upside down. Alright, so we don't have any stamping in this space here, but we have it here, and we want this to make sure to be on the right side of our card, the right hand side of our card. Now, if you don't want to use washi, you could use a little bit of your Seal or your Seal Plus and just tack that down. Okay, and then it's time to attach everything. So like I've said in the past, when you are making your own cards, or even if you buy your bases, right, there are going to be times where, let's see if you can actually see it. Here you go. Where one side is going to be ever so slightly longer than the other side, right? You can trim it if you'd like, or you can just put the longer side on the front, and then nobody will know unless you do a video and they watch your video. Alright, so you saw how easily that this frayed ribbon frays more. So that's why we're tucking it under, so it doesn't become a mess, right? These are our extra pieces, so I'm going to move them out of the way. Now, when you are attaching these, you do want to cut them off individually as you go. It becomes too difficult otherwise, and yeah. I learned that one the hard way. Go figure. Right, that's the best way to be able to give advice, is to learn the hard way first. Right? Anybody else find that to be true? I know I sure do. Alright, so for this, we are going to line up all the way to the edge of the card. So I'm just going to set the things there so I can see where I want that. And I'm just going to slide our camo-ish piece underneath. Okay, then we're going to trim this. Right, because this is already 2 layers of cardstock. It's really difficult to trim 4 layers. Alright, so we want this to be this. So we're going to use some dimensionals. And I'm just kind of eyeballing it so I don't put any down across where we're gonna cut off, right? Because that would be silly. Alright, so we are going to go over top of the ribbon, and our dimensionals are so that it lies nicely on our card front. And then just trim off again. Easy peasy. Alright, now our inside. So this is that 1/2 inch strip. We're just going to put it at the very bottom of our white piece. And then tuck it inside. And that, my friends, is card number 2 all done. And it's the only card we're going to use dimensionals or ribbon on. So, alright. The other thing that you could do, let me bring these back. Right, so we have a whole lot of green happening here. While I do have a Cajun Craze ink spot, right, the little ones, it's almost dry, so it didn't ink up nicely, really. But I do have the copper clay which you saw, which is what we did for the brown spots. So you could use that. It actually matches pretty decently. So if you thought it was too much green, you could always bring in that other ink color. All right. Our last card. So I want to show you what didn't work first. I know that's not usually the way it works, but this didn't work. So I'm not sure how well it comes across on the screen, but it became very muddy. So what I have here is Gorgeous Grape, right? Because I have it in the little ink spot that I inked, and Mossy Meadow, and it really created that not great combination for what we're doing, the technique that we're doing. Okay, it's a great color combination. It just didn't work for this technique. So we are actually going to use Basic Gray and Gorgeous Grape. So this was the I tried and it didn't work version, right? Because I did the gray first. I was like, ooh, what if I could get some green? And that did not work. So this is what we're going to do. And then we have the inside as well. So I think I might do the inside more like I did the envelope and do the gray as a second generation, as opposed to how we did it on the front. And I do want to say, if you look, the question is, can you see it on camera? There are a few that are actually darker purple. Here, a couple over here. It's the same purple, right? They're working like watercolors work. If you put down a layer and you let it dry or make it dry, and then put down another layer, it deepens that color as opposed to just blending in. So, what do you need for this card? You need, obviously, card base and envelope, right? That's a given. You need two pieces. I only have one because I pre-started the other one. Here we go. 2 pieces of white that are 3 7/8 by 5 1/8, and then a Gorgeous Grape that is 4 by 5 1/4. Okay, and actually you need one of the white pieces actually needs to be smaller, although if you do both of them, it's okay, it won't matter because the other one's obviously for the inside. So these two would be 4 by 5 1/4. This one would be 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Sorry, brain stalled. So, doing nothing on the card base again. Let's go ahead and do some things. So what I did do is I did the gray already so that could dry. And on this one you can also see some darker gray that I did again after it dried. So I had done 2 of the green ones in advance. I just did green, and then I did the Gorgeous Grape and realized it didn't work. So this one, I think it would be really cute if you took the tiny little flowers and cut those from any color, really. You could do Gorgeous Grape, you could do Bubble Bath, any color flower you wanted, and then just kind of do a variety of flowers, and that would be a super cute card. It would not fit today's theme of stamps, ink, and paper, but it would be super cute. Okay, so let's let's go ahead and do our purple first. Let me bring this back in. And this. Too many things in too many places. Goodness. All right. So the stamps that we're going to use, actually I need to clean that. So Thinking of You is actually Everyday Greetings, and then the Painted Lavender for our hanging vines. And you could bring in some other things too, but I just stuck with that one. And yeah, that's it. I only used those 2 stamps for this whole card. All right. So normally you would not do a stamp to a small spot, but because I have it in this little holder thing, it works really well. All right, I think one more right there. Okay, next is our inside piece. And we're going to do the opposite corner, but same technique. I do want to kind of overlap some of them. Alright, I'm going to bring in the basic gray and do those. And like I said, I'm going to do some 2nd generation stamping for those. I just wanted to add a little bit of depth, not a ton of color. Okay, so there are those 2 pieces. Next up, doing nothing with that there. Now we're going to bring this in, and I did find it was easier for me to stamp it this way so I could hold the larger part of the stamp. And let's make sure we're not using the wrong ink. Okay. So I'm just going to go through and ink the whole thing, and then I'm going to come in and, like our camo earlier, we're going to stamp and 2nd generation stamp. We are going to overlap and create different gaps. Do not twist. We're going all in the same direction. And don't worry about this piece, we're gonna get there. Okay. Now, it would be easier if I had the full-size ink pad, but I have not won the lottery, right? So I can't get everything all at one time, just like many of you. So I try to show you all some cards that you can do to get some different looks from the supplies that you might have. Or if you don't have them, you might have something similar. And hopefully it will spark the, oh hey, I can do this with this other thing. Alright, almost there. Alright, so we have our bottom edge essentially, right? Because our card does go this way. So we have this all kind of done and good. If you wanted, you could put a few more pieces in here, but what we're going to do is we're going to let this kind of dry while we finish up the other edge, and then I'll show you something else. Alright, so we don't actually have to ink up the whole thing anymore. We just need to ink up enough, and we want to, if possible, kind of line up our center stem with what we got going on. But sometimes you can't always see it, so that's okay too. So we're just kind of filling in that edge. You do want to vary kind of where on the stamps that you're stamping, just so it doesn't all look identical. Okay, so that is where we're at with that. So it is very wet, right? We have put a lot of ink on here, so be aware of that. Right. We're going to bring in our basic gray again so that we can stamp our sentiment. Now, if you came from Close to My Heart, remember these are foam pads, so they are much more squishy. Okay, so because of how wet this is, you can let it dry or you can make it dry. So you can take your heat gun and heat that so it dries a little bit. So I'm going to do that off screen so I don't melt anything up here that I don't want melted, which is everything. Okay, so be aware when you make it dry, it will tend to curl a little bit. But we can, we can play with it a little bit. Now, if I had used thick basic white, it would not have curled, but I did not, so that's okay. Okay, so at this point, if you thought you needed it, you could add another spotted layer of Gorgeous Grape. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're just going to do random here and there. We're not going to line anything up. We're going to kind of vary the lengths of the stampings. But we're not going to make any of them so long that we need to line up another one. I think I'm actually going to bring in this piece. Which is a very similar shape, and it's actually meant to give some detail to those spots. But we are going to use it to add different detail in different spots. Okay. And now we're ready to assemble. So this is super simple, super easy, super cute. So this one is inside. We want to make sure that we're doing it the right way, so we're going to put our pieces at the top. Normally I would put that in the bottom corner, but our piece is hanging down, so we wanted to mimic that. So this is going to have a very, very small margin border. Hello, I have some other person joining. Lethal Company. Hello, thanks for popping in. Not sure that you're a card maker based on that name, but you never know. Oops, excuse me. And that is the end of that roll. It's a good thing that that was the last card. How awesome was that timing? And then we are just going to center that on all four sides. And that, my friends, is card number 3. So how about that? You will have to let me know which of these cards is your favorite. Do you like card number 3? Card number 2? Or card number 1? This is kind of not really in view, so let me try to adjust things so you can see. So, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks to the new people for stopping in and saying hello. I appreciate it. If you all found the video fun or helpful or informative or inspiring, I would love it if you gave me a thumbs up. If you have crafty friends, if you could share this video with them, that really helps me and my channel and my small business get out to more crafty people. So thank you again for everybody for showing up, whether it be on the live or the replay. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you all